Ladies and gentlemen, come on, man. That right there got me excited as it is. DB, I want you to introduce our guest today. Can you do it, please, DB?
Sure, citizens. We've had several of the Shark Tank hosts on our show, from Mark Cuban to our good friend Damon John. Our guest today learned about investing in finances from an early age, and his mother was also a savvy investor herself. So to all of our younger listeners, you can learn a lot from your parents, and this is a guy who can teach you about the do's and don'ts when you get some money. He's here today to talk about the new show Money Court, premiering tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern on CNBC. Please welcome Kevin O'Leary.
Kevin!
Thank you. That's very kind. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. This is Sway. I'm Sway. We got Heather B.
What's up, Kevin?
And we got Tracy
Hey.
G.
Hey, Kevin. Good to hear your voice.
Thank you.
Just like you are on Money Court on Sway in the Morning, I'm surrounded by two very powerful women, Kev.
Yeah, that can be a problem sometimes, no question.
Wow.
Welcome to the show, man. Damon John is a good friend of mine. I did I read his audio books. I do the audio for his audio books, so the past 3 books that he's done. And I've known him for years through the culture and what he started with FUBU, and then began to grow and grow and grow, and then you guys collaborated on Shark Tank. I want to start. First of all, congratulations on Money Court. Can you tell us about Money Court real quick?
You know, what's happened because of the pandemic all across America is all the courts are jammed up because a lot of trials never happened. Courts were closed. Now we got tens of thousands of cases piled up like a log jam. And the trouble with a money dispute in a business, if you don't resolve it, that's what happens. So they don't want to wait to go to trial. They want arbitration. And that's really what Money Court's about. People are letting me make a decision on how to solve a problem between 2 litigants. Mm-hmm. And so they sign a contract, they come in, and I look at the case. I listen to Ada, I listen to Katie, because they're great on the law. But I try and decide how to solve this thing to keep the business alive or keep the value there. So it gets pretty complicated sometimes because money can tear people apart. It can tear families apart. It can tear, siblings apart, mothers and daughters suing each other. There's some crazy stuff going on out there.
Yeah. Can you speak to that, Kevin? Because it's always been said you shouldn't do business with family or friends for this reason. What are your thoughts about that? How can you do business with family and friends successfully? What steps should you take from the beginning?
Well, in America, 65% of new jobs are created by small businesses, and the majority of those are family businesses. They were started by families. Now, a lot of them are very successful, hundreds of millions in sales. But the trouble with families is there's always a tension. You've got the business itself, what you're trying to solve for. And in a business, you got customers, you got employees, you got bank loans, you got equity holders and all that. And then you've got sibling rivalries. Maybe the uncle and the aunt don't get along or whatever. And so it just festers because, you go back to Thanksgiving dinner and you're yelling at each other about a business. It's kind of crazy, but at the end of the day, you have to live with it. Now, what happens when you can't resolve it, particularly between family members, they hire lawyers and they sue each other. And it gets really nasty because that's where all of a sudden it's not just about the money. It's about the family being torn to pieces. And we have lots of those cases on Money Court. It just breaks your heart. I mean, it's really hard to watch a mother sue her daughter. Come on, who does that?
Yeah,
got lots of cases like that.
That's interesting. One of the things that I appreciate about your story, and DB mentioned that your mother, you found out, I think once she passed away, how shrewd of an investor she was based on her investment portfolio. And I read that she also remarried someone who was an economist. So from your early age, you were exposed to conversation about finances. How prevalent was that? How prevalent was it for your parents and your stepfather to really educate you on how money works? And what age did that begin?
It should start at the very early age of 7 years old. And that's what I did with my kids. That's what my mother taught me. When she died, I got a call from the estate attorney and said, you got to come down here. You're the older brother. And your mother's died a really wealthy woman. I went, what? Like, we were a middle-class family. So what she'd done from an early age, at late teen years, she took 20% of her paycheck, 20%, and stuck it in telco bonds, like bonds from telco companies where those days are paying 6 or 7%, and the rest in S&P dividend-paying stocks. And she had that portfolio. She had it she kept it secret from both her husbands. You could do it back in those days. And that thing, over the years, over 50 years, she beat every market analyst and everybody else. She wasn't even a portfolio manager. She just really believed in getting paid to wait. She wanted things that paid her interest or paid her dividends. I always wondered why she could afford to help everybody in her family, including my brother and I, get through college. And I thought, where's she getting all this dough from? And then I found out, and that really changed my mind about everything. So I always take a little piece of whatever I make and put it aside and invest it and only spend the interest or dividends. It really works. I mean, she was the master of it.
Only spend the interest or the dividends. See, now he's dropping gems. I'm going to ask you this, and I'm going to let Heather and Tracy jump in. That conversation y'all had at 7, and I'm going to start talking about my community, the black community that I grew up in. I started having financial conversations with my grandmother probably in junior high. But, in elementary, we ran little odd and end jobs, like we'll cut your lawn for $10, so on and so forth, learn how to save a little bit. A lot of folks weren't having that conversation in our community that early on, right, which I think we're starting to see better now. As a businessman, when you talk about the black community and its spending power, in this country compared to other communities, how powerful is it? How much influence does it have, the black dollar, in driving our economy in this country?
It's huge. And any business that ignores it is missing out on 20-25% of the market right there. I mean, it's crazy. You got to make sure that your product fits everybody. I mean, the whole idea that, you can target a market or target an age and get it right is impossible. I mean, black community's dollar gets more powerful every year. Everybody knows that. And then when you start to see products like on Shark Tank and everything else that is specifically designed for the black community, they're wildly successful because that community wants to support its own entrepreneurs. So it's a great idea, and you start to see it now. There's mandates like Walmart and Target and other large companies that are saying, we want 15 to 20% of everything we're doing and bringing in product coming from black entrepreneurs. That's pretty cool. That is a very good mandate. Makes a lot of sense because it matches the market.
Kevin O'Leary is here. HB, you want to jump in?
Yeah. Hi, Kevin. It's Heather again. I have a question about marriage and relationships and money. How important was it for you to marry someone or be on the lookout for someone who was financially responsible, you having that education so young?
Well, let me give you some data. I wrote a book years ago, and I've written 3 of them now. The first one was called Men, Women, and Money, and I hired some researchers to investigate divorce because I was wondering, why is it that 50% of marriages fail between the 5th and 7th year? I always thought it was infidelity. Not true. The reason marriages fall apart 50% of the time is not infidelity. Most of them can survive that. It's financial stress. One partner outspends the other. One partner goes bankrupt. One partner lies about what they're doing with money. They don't have a common goal, and they stress their relationship out to the brink of where they have to divorce. That's what happens. So money really matters. It's sort of the way you got to think about a marriage as like a financial partnership. You got to have common goals. Now, I was very lucky. I married somebody that had no money. I had no money when we got married. That wasn't what we were about. But we both said we got to save some dough here, pay off our mortgage, and get out of debt. That was our goal when we got married. We couldn't even afford a meal. We ordered pizza for our guests at the wedding because we didn't want to spend any dough on that. Wow. And at the end of the day, I know she didn't marry me for my money.
Yeah, Kev.
Kev brought that other work to the game, huh? Kev, you probably a thriller behind closed doors, huh, Kev?
Hey, listen, I try and stay in shape. Why not?
Okay, my man Kevin O'Leary. Go ahead, Tracy.
Wow. Kevin, I got 2 questions to throw your way. One, when I think about the spending power of the black community, personally and honestly, I feel a bit torn because I know although we have the highest spending power, but we don't have the highest wealth in the country. So that just creates this schism to me. And that brings me to psychology, because we know that sometimes when people are spending, that's a form of retail therapy for themselves. You know what I'm saying? Or they're spending way beyond their means. And sometimes I feel like that can be exploited. Has those thoughts ever entered your mind when you think about some companies that make things that don't necessarily have like, aren't a necessity, but the marketing around it is so sparkly, you know that it can seduce someone to pay for something that just collects dust when they should be focused on wealth.
Well, you're taught to spend from an early age. I mean, our society is a commercial society. Everybody's always trying to get you to reach into your pocket and pull out money and buy something you don't need. That's something you got to teach your kids too, and you have to have self-discipline. I always say, think about going into your closet sometime and looking at your shoes and your pants and your shirts. You're only wearing 20% of them. The rest you bought for no reason. You never use them. You might as well throw them out. This is the biggest mistake people make. One day I looked at all the jeans I bought. I only wear 3 pair that I really like. That's the crazy thing. People buy stuff they don't need. And when you do that, you kill money, because that money could be invested and it could be making you 6-7% a year. So that pair of jeans that you bought 10 years ago is probably worth $1,000 now had it been put into the market. The 110 you paid for a designer jean set or something. And that's what I teach these days. I go into colleges and in high schools even. We do a lot of this work on Shark Tank. We'll go to a high school in Tennessee or something and say, hey, listen, kids, don't waste your dough. It's really a bad idea. And here's why. Because if you continue, all you have to do is keep about 10% of your salary. Average salary in America is $54,000. If you were able to just keep 10% invested in the market over the period of your career, you'd end up with $1.5 million in the bank when you retire, enough to live off, instead of buying all the crap you didn't need. So it doesn't matter. You really have to think that through and kind of teach it as a philosophy. I find myself, I'm a cheap guy these days. I even go through my iPhone saying, what subscriptions do I have here I don't need? And I'm checking that every couple of months. You always say, yeah, I'll take that for $3.99. You don't need it. Yeah. That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a difference between materialism and wealth. So thank you for that. Also, earlier we were speaking about Quentin Tarantino. I feel like this is an interesting subject to get your POV on. Anyways, he did an interview and he was describing how to this day still, he does not give his mother any money, any type of financial gift, because when he was in high school, she did not believe in his dream of being a writer and was trying to get him to quit. And so when he was in high school, he was like, you know what, when I'm successful, there will be no car for you, no house, etc., etc. Do you feel like a child owes it to their parent, thinking about a lot of the invisible work, a lot of the obvious work, a roof over your head, paying for your school potentially? Do you feel like a child, when they get older, owes it to their parents to give some type of gift when they have, a lot of financial success?
Well, I mean, that's a personal decision, I think. I'm hearing a story about him. I've heard that before. That must be a rift in their relationship. It's really hard to think about not loving your mother back. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
But my mother helped me out so much. She gave me so much after she passed away that I was not anticipating. And what I basically did with that is I spread it around my family, because I thought that's what she would have wanted, sort of, because by then I'd already been successful. I didn't need much more from her, but she saved it, and I gave it to other people in my family that needed it. But I think you've got to think of it this way. You can't tap your parents out, because when they have become elderly, they generally don't have any income. They're living off their savings. And if you're young and you're not working, and you keep telling your mom, listen, give me another $1,000 just so I can go hang out with my buddies, that ain't right. That's not right, because you're taking away what she's got to live off. And very often, women outlast men. Your mother's alive and your father isn't, and all she has is what she saved. So I don't like the idea of people tapping their parents after they're 21 years old. You got to go make your own living, and you got to make sure you work a little harder, but not take your parents' money.
Okay, my man Kevin O'Leary. Okay, I'm gonna play this
Thanks,
back.
Kev.
I got a 22-year-old, so I'll let her know what you said, Kev.
All
right. Kev got a TV series, Money Court, is premiering Wednesday, 10 p.m.
Yes, tomorrow
on CNBC. Congratulations, Kev. We got a few people that got questions. I know everywhere you go, people got questions for you. I hope you don't mind, man. I'm gonna put and they have ideas, Kev. They have ideas, Kevin. So this is Kelly right now on the line from North Carolina. Grand Rises, Kelly. And they're all going to watch your show, Kevin. They're all going to watch the show. Right, Kelly?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Tuning in.
Okay, cool. Say hello to Kevin O'Leary. Do you have a question or an idea?
Hey. Good morning, everybody. I am the owner and inventor of the Dual Duvet, which is a split comforter. And I have been trying to figure out how to get my products out there. I have a website. Of course, I have an Instagram page. And I'm just trying to figure out what's going to be the best way to get my product in front of inventors, and where do I look for these, investors, and where do I look for these investors at?
It's all social media now. What's happened after the pandemic is everything's direct to consumer. So what you have to do is go find the blogs, go find the people and the clubs and all of the groups on Facebook and other social media platforms, LinkedIn, you name it, that love that product category, and start showing images and videos. Right now, videos become more important than photography because all the algorithms on these social media platforms are favoring video, 59-second videos. You can see what's happened with TikTok, open account there too. You got to tell the story just the way you just told it now. And that's what works, because you don't want to spend a ton of money on digital advertising. What you want to do is be a storyteller and explain what the benefits of your product are and push people directly to your website. That's how it starts. And then the community starts to build. If your product's good, word of mouth really kicks in, and people start saying, yeah, here's where I got it, here's why I like it, here's why I use it. And bingo, it starts to sell. That's based on the merits of a good product. I've seen that happen 100 times in my Shark Tank companies. And if the product is good, it's going to survive. And you don't have to spend a ton of money. That's what I found out. The good marketers tell stories and have little images and 59-second videos and really work hard that people understand why the product has merit. You do that well, you'll do just fine.
Hey, Kelly, thanks for your call. You're a citizen, okay, Kelly?
That's 3 in the morning, girl.
The Dual Duvet.
Okay, you too. All right. John in Ohio, you have a quick question?
John.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, Kevin? I'm definitely a big fan of your show. I'm definitely going to watch your new program because I'm all about reinvesting money. The question I got is this. You know, I do decent. I got a nice tree service, and I got, I do a lot of, I get consistent cash flow. But I own some properties, but what I want to start doing is buying higher end properties, and I want to be able to go to the bank and them just, I got assets, but I want to be able to go to the banks and get like the nice credit line for me to be able to buy, different. I don't just want to be limited to properties, because sometimes you run across a good deal on something, and I'm trying to get like a nice credit line so I can be able to just, if I get an opportunity to make, a good power move, I want to be able to do that. So I'm trying to find out, how do I go to the bank? My credit score is great and everything too, but I'm trying to be more, I want to make big moves like you, and I'm trying to go to the next level. That's my objective. So how do you lead me in the direction to get me there?
Well, you mentioned credit score. That's really important. I mean, you never want to screw that up. And I always say to people, do what you know and know what you do. Because if you understand property and you're making money, maybe you're renting out a property or you're just managing it or whatever, and that's what you're good at, you don't want to stray too far. Where people get in trouble is they get into debt, they take down a credit line, and most of these credit lines that banks give you have variable rates. In other words, it's great when interest rates are low. But in a couple of months or maybe even shorter period of time, we don't know when, rates will start going back up. And then that monthly payment you're paying skyrockets and you get into trouble. You destroy your credit rating. I really like to stay in my lane. I know what I'm good at. When people pitch me ideas that I don't understand or I've never done before, I avoid them, because every time I've lost money, it's because I got involved in something I didn't understand and I never done before. And that's how you learn, of course, but you don't want to make too many mistakes where you lose money, because that credit score is really hard to fix if you destroy it, really hard, because they don't forgive. And every time you borrow money after that, even for something you do know, like property management, you're going to pay a lot more for it. So I'm in the fan base where I say, okay, if you really are good at managing properties or whatever you're making money on right now, do more of that, because that's where your skill base is. That's what you're good at. And stay out of trouble. Money can be a great thing, but when you owe it to somebody, it can really screw you up.
John, thanks for your call. You're a citizen, brother. All right.
Sway in the morning.
Like your game. I'm going to take on one more. Catherine is in Miami. Grand Risings, Catherine. How are you?
Catherine.
Hey, Kathy.
Hi, Grand Rising, everybody. Hi, Kevin.
Hi there.
Kevin, so my question for you is I wanted to know what your thoughts are on prenups before marriages and how one should feel if your partner asks for a prenup.
I like you.
You know, I really like prenups. Let me tell you why. You know, let's talk about dating. Let's talk about marriage. Let's talk about that journey as you get together. You know, maybe you start. Generally speaking, by the third date, by the time you're seeing somebody the third time, you know you're interested and you know they're interested in you. So why is it a bad thing to start talking about money? That's when you should start talking about it, because if you're getting into a relationship, you want to find out a little financial due diligence about your partner. Have they ever been bankrupt? Do they owe a lot of money? Are they in debt? Do they gamble? You know, that kind of thing is really important to know before you enter into a marriage. And I'll tell you why I like prenups. Prenups force you to do financial due diligence. They force you to ask those questions. And there's nothing wrong with them, because prenups are important for that period in your marriage for the first 3 years. Maybe you don't have kids in there. The minute you have a kid, those prenups are worthless, because now you have a family and it doesn't matter. No judge is going to go back to an old piece of paper when you have a child involved. You're going to go 50-50 from that point on. But you really want to make sure that you have a good understanding of who you're getting into bed with. You know, when I say that, you're doing a marriage is like a business. This is your partner. And if you have somebody that's really not aligned with you, you're going to have a bad outcome. And so I always tell people, you know, I talk to a lot of young kids that are dating. I say, look, you guys have been going out now for like a year. You ever talked about money? And they say, no, we don't talk about money. Well, that's crazy. That's crazy. You're going out for a year. You're going to get married probably, right? And so that's what I'm thinking about all the time, is trying to tell people, just like we're talking now, yes to the prenup. It just forces you to deal with that due diligence about your partner's financial literacy.
Yeah, you have. Okay, Catherine, you got it?
I love it. Thank you so much.
All right, you're a citizen. Kevin, I got to ask you one last question. A friend of mine, my partner, King Tech, was curious because he's an investor as well. Two things. He said, out of all of your investments, which one is currently the most profitable and why?
The investment I made in myself. That's the way I look at it. I tell people, you know, the thing you got to do is keep yourself healthy and tuned, in shape. Don't do drugs. Don't drink too much. Don't smoke. I know that sounds really corny, but if I wasn't healthy, I couldn't make more money. That's the way I look at it. And so I really, really care about what I eat and how I exercise and all that stuff. And when I meet people that, you know, are in their 50s that are smoking, I say, are you out of your mind? They're like, what are you doing that for? That's crazy. So I'm all about investing in yourself, number one, getting yourself in a good mental attitude. Don't get stuck on something you know you shouldn't be doing. Everything in moderation. My mother taught me this, and it works, because if you're healthy and you're sharp and you're focused, you can make a lot more dough. That's what I've learned. And I think that's always got to be number one. You got to be number one. You got to take care of yourself. Always. You're number one always. I don't mean in a selfish manner. I mean you got to take care of yourself, and then everything will fall in behind you just fine.
Okay. And then one last question. I know you got to go, and this is a field that I'm invested in, is shipping containers. And then also want to ask you about supply chain issues that we're dealing with in this country right now. The cost on everything is through the roof. For example, shipping containers from China used to cost us about $3,500 from China to L.A., and now it's around $20,000. It's just been a spike on shipping containers. So what are your thoughts on the supply chain issues that we're dealing with in this country?
I think they could be semi-permanent, these costs, because, you know, the world is changing quite a bit. We have lots of competition from other economies that are also recovering. And there's no question there has been a lot of problems on the supply chain management system. I have that in all of my companies, because we had a lot of our products and services manufactured over in China. Now, we've shifted a lot to Vietnam, like Love Pop greeting cards. We make them in Vietnam now, not China, and other products and things that I do. But I've also learned, you're right, you've got to be very focused on keeping that whole thing working. And I think what's happened here is we did not see this recovery coming as fast as it has. We're talking about GDP growth in Q4, like 9-10%. We haven't seen that since the 1950s. And so, America's roaring back. I know we got issues with this variant and all that stuff, but we're learning to live with this virus and be a little healthier about it and be a little more cautious, at least the majority of people are. And our economy is roaring back, and it's putting a lot of pressure on supply chain. So I don't see that, being resolved anytime soon. Just ask anybody that's trying to buy a Ford pickup truck right now. You can't even get one. They're having such a hard time with the chips and everything. It's crazy. It's because the economy's coming back, which is a good thing, but the demand is insatiable, and we can't get what we need. And so I think that's going to be the new normal.
Mm-hmm. Man, Kevin O'Leary, thank you. This has been fun, man. It's been really great having you on the show. Congratulations on Money Court. Our whole team, our whole audience will be supporting you, and we would love to have you back. If you're open to
Anytime,
that.
my friend. I really enjoyed it. Tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, CNBC, Money Court. Please watch it. I'm very proud to have made it. It's a lot of fun.
Continued success, Kevin O'Leary. Take care of yourself, and you're a citizen.
A Sway in the morning.
Thank you.